You know what Sony had? The Holy Trinity. Leo, Brad, and Marco. Who do you have?
This week, first-time guest Alistair Ryder joins us to discuss Antonio Banderas' Lucy Liu vehicle Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. This is Boy Party. Your most dangerous enemies are the podcasters you've double-crossed. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Boy Party, the podcast about movies where two major stars share the screen and battle it out for top billing. My name is Lucien and I'm joined as always by the trained assassin, once my enemy, now my friend. It's Shane Kelly.
Good evening.
And we are joined by the world's number one Ballistic Ecks versus Sever watcher, seer, perceiver. It is all the way across the Irish Sea from Manchester, England. Alistair Ryder is joining us on the show. Hello.
Hello. It's great, long-time listener, first-time caller. It's great to be here. And seeing in front of my eyes that all of these time you've been recording this in front of a 4DX Madam Web poster.
Correct.
It's really just enhanced the experience.
Show them what we've got just out of frame. We have 4DX Madam Web behind us, and then right beside you, we have got a framed Robbie Williams autographed Better Man poster signed by the man himself. That was actually free of charge because they never sent the soundtrack album it was meant to come with. So I got refunded for the entire purchase.
Incredible.
So now it sits in our house as a sort of a perverse tribute to our favorite insane film from last year. But welcome to the show. Now, would you describe yourself as more of an Ecks or more of a Sever?
They're so well-defined characters, even as, you could call them character archetypes, but I feel they're even richer than that, I think there's an Ecks and a Sever wrestling inside all of us.
Yes, there is. I think I'm more of an Ecks. I think Shane's more of a Sever. I think we have a real Ecks-Sever dynamic going on. Like some days we'll just be here at home and I'll say, "Oh, you're being such a Sever right now."
A little bit, and I will frequently kidnap your son. Not your son.
No, my son.
Someone else's son.
Someone else's son. He really has the X factor, you might say.
Yes.
But I've decided, as this is the first time we've ever covered a movie on this podcast with versus in the title, which is crazy because it's a podcast about movies where there's two people, often who are a protagonist and an antagonist, two faces sharing a poster, but we've never done a versus before. So I've got a quiz for you, Alistair, which is the versus quiz.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm going to give you the year of a movie and one of the people in the versus in the title, and I want you to tell me who the other who they were versus in this context. So I'll start with some easy ones, some very, very easy ones. So 2007, who was Eagle versus?
Is that Shark? Taika Waititi's
Correct.
Eagle versus Shark.
Eagle versus Shark. Very good. In 2009, what were Monsters versus?
Aliens.
Correct.
A great one to bank if you ever get Seth Rogen on the Cinematrix, by the way. That's a guaranteed 1% answer most of the time.
Unfathomable amount of animated DreamWorks stuff in his filmography, as we recently discussed. Who was Evil versus in 2010?
Evil versus?
Now, sorry, I should say, I'm not always putting the first name first here.
Oh, right, okay.
The name might come after the versus. Among the cast of this film, Alan Tudyk, Katrina Bowden. It's a title I know, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Yeah, this is ringing no bells.
Okay.
It's two things.
Tucker
against.
and Dale versus Evil.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Right, okay.
Go. In 2017, who was Borg versus?
McEnroe.
McEnroe.
We had the Borg versus McEnroe fever in 2017.
We all did. We were Borging out. Let me see some other ones on here. A lot of most of these are straight to DVD, Asylum B movies. Let's have a look. Who were Demonic Toys versus in 2004?
Demonic I'm thinking, right, because that must be, there was a Chucky film out in 2004, so the Asylum, they're clearly thinking, we need to mush two things together, so what else?
But the other name here is a reference to another horror franchise, as far as I know. Corey Feldman is first billed in this.
Okay, Demonic Toys versus Vampire Master, something like that?
Incorrect. The answer is...
No, you got one of those.
You got one of those. Puppet Master.
Oh, right, okay.
Obviously, Kramer was versus Kramer. Here's an interesting one. In 1936, who was Wife versus? This is a Clark Gable and Jean Harlow romantic comedy.
I mean, surely it surely is just husband versus wife, right?
It's much better. Wife versus secretary.
Yes.
I love that. Now, I didn't realize there was a 1963 Japanese King Kong versus Godzilla. Okay, interesting. And as of today, they've announced that the next Godzilla Kong movie is called Godzilla vs. Kong Supernova, I think.
I completely missed this news.
Yeah, they announced that an hour ago, and Sam Neill is going to be the lead of that. Crazy.
Why not? So they've I haven't watched any of these Godzilla versus Kong movies, but I see that they've stopped doing the whole Godzilla X Kong, but the X is silent thing. They're back to Versus.
They've gone back to Versus, yeah. Right, I mean, they should. Versus movies are the best. I'll do one final one. In 1990s,
X makes it sound like they're friends.
Yeah, X makes it sound like... yeah, I think they are friends in the new Empire. Is that why it's an X?
It should be like Godzilla XO Kong, Kiss Hug Kong.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, this movie should be called Ballistic XX Sever. The final one, in 1996, Who Were the People versus...
Larry Flint.
Larry Flint. All right, well done. That's the Versus game. I look forward to doing the X game whenever we get to our Godzilla X Kong episode. But for today, the only X game we're doing is Ballistic Ecks versus Sever, a 2002 film by the world's #1 action filmmaker, Koas.
He's got the best name anyway.
He does have the best name. Alistair, have you seen any of Koas's other films?
I have not seen Koas's other films, but I have read, I was preparing for this. I was reading interviews with him after making this, and he does sound like a visionary. He does sound like, the film that we have seen is not the film that he intended to make.
It's not a film by Koas at all. It's a bastardization of Koas's idea. And I think there's moments in this film when it's at its most... keeping you awake, are the moments where Koas's, I suppose, background in both martial arts stuff and maybe music videos comes through. And by that, I basically exclusively mean the shot of Antonio Banderas in the rain with the slow motion rain, which I thought was very striking.
Enrique Iglesias.
Very Enrique Iglesias video. And I was like, if the whole movie was operating on this visual palette, I would be far more interested.
It's also a great slow motion. Well, it's not slow mo, but it's like a hyper stylized shot of Lucy Liu before, as she's walking to the first shootout, which again, is just a little moment, but it feels like, there's an actual director with a sense of, a visual style of how to frame an action scene. And then the shootout start, and it is the most boring thing to watch.
Extraordinary, I know. So, as you said to me before we started recording, this is the most forgettable film of all time. We watched it about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I have both had to watch the trailer again and listen to another podcast discuss it in order to remember any of what went on. You saw it about 4 days ago and you've already forgotten it.
Yes.
It feels like a film in another language that I watched without subtitles.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're like, I'm kind of trying to piece together the narrative from visual cues without any actual context. It's really, really hard to follow. And I think that that's probably a result of being hacked to death in the edit.
Yeah, it's been hacked to death. And, when, a few months ago, we started talking about me being on this podcast, and you gave me the master list, and I just said, I wanted to do this because, firstly, this movie exists to me as a title, and I know that it's supposed to be, one of the worst films of all time, but you hear that title, just Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. It's such a shit title that I cannot imagine that, it would be anything less than entertaining. And it's just...
it's like...
so devoid of
Ballistic
personality.
Doesn't give enough information about what the film is.
They had to throw in Ecks versus Sever.
We had to explain to you that Ecks versus Sever. This is an Ecks versus Sever thing.
Yeah,
because Ballistic, no one knows what that means.
What's the bit in the trailer where the words come up on the screen at the end? It's like good versus evil, friend versus foe,
truth versus
lies, Ecks versus Sever. The implication that we are already familiar with our dear friends Ecks and Sever is the funniest thing about this movie.
Yeah,
but. Go ahead.
Oh, no. What I was going to say is it's like the rule of, if you want to start a franchise, you don't put like a new character's name in the title. I mean, this is, of course, being broken with John Wick, which was a character that was, completely new and, instantly famous. But like Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, for example. You need time to get the audience acquainted with these people, and when it's just throwing out there like Ecks and Sever, these people with wacky names, that's all I've got to go on. They're good and evil, and that's it. Okay, sure.
So you're saying the order of this should have been Ballistic 1 featuring Ecks, Ballistic 2 featuring Sever,
and then Ballistic Ecks versus Sever.
Ballistic 3, Ecks versus Sever.
They rushed it the way that, Batman v Superman jumped straight in after Man of Steel. There was never a Superman solo movie. We needed the Ballistic the Ecks and the Sever.
Yeah.
And then them to come together. rather than reverse engineering the team up. But there's a Game Boy Advance game that came out a year before the movie that people seemingly love. And it seems to be the most positive kind of like cultural reference people have for this, because the game apparently wasn't shit, was kind of fun, and has 80% on Metacritic. Now, I've never owned a Game Boy Advance. I never played these games. I don't know what a good Game Boy Advance game looks like. I do find it funny that the animated characters of Ecks and Sever do not look like Antonio and Lucy. The woman is not even stylized as Asian at all. This is a white woman, but it's like they actually had a chance there to get Ecks and Sever in the public consciousness about a year before the movie, and they obviously did not succeed given this film's complete failure.
So was that game the first...
People's first introduction to Ecks and Sever.
That was the original...
But the movie was in production when the game was made. So the game was very early marketing.
So the game was made because they found out it was built as a tie-in to the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
A weird way of doing
Why wasn't the
things.
game called Ballistic?
Because we need people to be familiar with Ecks and familiar with Sever. They're our friends, like Ecks and Sever. I would also argue, my other issue with the title here, there's very little of this movie where Ecks is actually versus Sever. They become friends and compatriots within a few moments of meeting each other, I feel like. There's really only one or two scenes where they're fighting, right? Am I wrong?
I would say that the other issue is the fact that it's not very ballistic at all. It's actually quite a normal movie.
Correct. It's like... God, we watched Swordfish a few months ago, and we kind of defined it in this category of early 2000s computers are cool cinema, where you've got the camera spinning around someone at a desk with a bunch of computers, and you're like, whoa, they have computers, they can do stuff.
Yeah, where they edit someone on a computer as if it's action.
Yeah. Ballistic Ecks versus Sever has a great opportunity to be one of those and completely fails at it because it's just too much people in a child in a cage, people outside running around.
Yeah, I think one thing you mentioned when we were watching this is that this feels like I'm playing Grand Theft Auto.
But you're just driving around without trying to get involved in the action.
The motorbike driving around scene feels like I'm just playing Grand Theft Auto on a PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
But even
I thought that was the best way to describe it.
Yeah, but even with the most zone out playing Grand Theft Auto, you are at least... doing fun things such as running over pedestrians and listening to 80s bangers on the soundtrack. Here, the entire score is that sort of you wouldn't steal a car style early 2000s EDM that sort of almost goes into nu metal, but never quite. It's very polite.
Apparently what happened is that Koas wanted Trevor Rabin to do the score, who is Bruckheimer's guy who does National Treasure and all that stuff. And I like his music in kind of a early 2000s trashy way. And then they bring in Don Davis, the Matrix guy, to do the score. And he obviously does a real rush job and basically phones it in. And they get this kind of, techno nu metal late 90s thing that they want for probably, to pull in the Matrix crowd. But nothing else about this movie is half cool or interesting enough to pull in the Matrix crowd.
It doesn't have a science-y concept behind it.
Well, it has stupid chips in the brain.
It does have chips in the brain.
But it's described as a science fiction action thriller film on Wikipedia. I don't think this is a science fiction film.
No. Any sort of higher plot points really just zoom off the dome. You also really want there to be more focus on the child kidnapping stuff. It really does feel like if the villain is kidnapping a child, I feel like that should be, I don't know. I feel like as an audience member, I should be invested in that.
It's a thrilling event. Yeah, you should want to be caring about the child's safety and well-being, and the child in this is may as well be a mannequin of a child, so it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, but ultimately, when you cast Lucy Liu and Antonio Banderas in something, it's got to be sexy, and you can't be focusing on a child for the entire thing.
I know, but this movie's not sexy at all. This is the origin of the modern sexless action thriller. It really is.
Yeah.
But that maybe stems from the fact that the original casting was Wesley Snipes and Jet Li, which makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Then they go Sylvester Stallone and Vin Diesel. Koas wants Chow Yun-fat and Jean Reno, I assume with Reno as Ecks and Chow Yun-fat as Sever. But producers did not consider them financially viable, so they went with A-list sensations Banderas and Liu.
Oh, I didn't realize this was pitched as a dual male.
Two blokes, yeah.
Two blokes.
You can kind of tell from the fact that the Lucy Liu character demonstrates zero. I mean, not any character traits of any kind, but
there are
no distinctly feminine traits to that character.
They're also not
whatsoever.
like flashing glances at each other.
No, there's no flirtation. That's why it's so unsexy. Because she was written for, Vin Diesel or Jean Reno. Like, what's going on here? Are any of those versions sound more appealing to you, Alistair? I don't think so.
Not really. I mean, it's really a case of a director with some actual character sort of bringing any of those pairs to life, because I can see a world where any of those do function. I can see a world where this functions because Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu, very charismatic performers, I feel. And it's like we've sort of neutered their personalities significantly. And Antonio Banderas especially is sort of walking charisma. Like, even before he could, fluently speak English, he was cast in these big American productions. And, you see him in something like Interview with a Vampire, where he's still like learning English on set. And it's just the most, wow, this man is commanding attention. And 10 years later, he isn't even given the material that he can breathe life into in the same way. And he's like fluent in the language by this point.
Exactly. I think both of these actors around this stage in their careers suffered from being pigeonholed as beautiful Spanish man, beautiful Asian woman, like these are the only actors that can fulfill these particular types for us in blockbusters, and they end up being in so much slop as a result until a couple of interesting filmmakers come along and are willing to save them. Antonio Banderas' total worldwide box office. Anyone want to have a guess?
Oh, he's got a lot of animated stuff.
Yeah, it's got the Shreks on there.
Shreks.
Yeah. Puss is in Boot.
Yeah. Puss is in Boot, yeah.
Puss in the Boot.
Any guesses?
5.8.
Yeah. I'll second that.
$7.7 billion. Impressive. Incredible. We've got 6 Shreks in there. And then you have basically everything in the top 15 that isn't a Shrek belongs in the last 10 years, where he has taken on this weird trend of playing ship captains and pirates in every summer. There's a film where he plays a captain or a pirate. I'm talking Uncharted, where I'm assuming he does something like that, although I haven't seen it. He's doing that in Indiana Jones and the whatever that was called, Dial of Destiny. SpongeBob, Sponge Out of Water, he plays a pirate. In Doolittle, he plays a king with a big boat. Like, this becomes an entire phase of his career where an hour and 20 minutes into a movie, the hero runs into Antonio Banderas and he's got like a funny monocle or an eye patch and he's like, hello, I'm here. And it is kind of just playing off the Puss in Boots thing, because I feel like everything he's done, apart from the good films in the last 20 years, has been playing off Zorro and off Puss in Boots. And Puss in Boots was when I was first, I guess, became aware of him, because Shrek 2 comes out in 2004 and I'm like 7 or 8 years old and I wasn't aware of who he was. And I remember him being pushed very heavily in the marketing for that film as like, this is our twist on Zorro. It's weird to think that the Zorro movie had been that big of a deal that they had incorporated its imagery into this big animated franchise. And then a year after Shrek 2, the second Zorro movie comes out, which I have to imagine was sort of greenlit because of Shrek 2, or certainly the hype.
It's kind of an infinite cycle of Shrek as well. So you get a Zorro, so you put Antonio Banderas in another Shrek.
It seems weird they'd make a Zorro movie 10 years after the first one if it wasn't for Shrek.
Yeah.
But
do you think do kids know who he is and like him?
They did when we were kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do now. I mean, what did you think when Shrek 2 came out?
I was just a couple of years older than you. I think I saw Shrek 2 for my 10th birthday party, actually. And what a way to ring in the big 1-0. Yeah. Again, I remember like Antonio. I mean, we talk about like sort of these actors that sort of children know. I mean, I think like Jack Black these days is like that is the first movie star you would know as a child. Yeah. But Antonio Banderas, was definitely, for an animated film, was pushed as a sort of in front of the camera personality, even that a child would be able to get. And I feel like he's still cast today in the same way, like Paddington in Peru, another one of his
I haven't even seen that. Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
oh my God.
His another of his boat captain movies that he shows up an hour into. That is, we're playing on the same thing, but it's also playing on, that side of his persona that it's assuming kids know. And I feel like for the most recent Puss in Boots, he was also very much marketed as a star and not, the character is a star like so many animated films would.
Yeah, and he also, around the same time as Shrek, he's doing the Spy Kids movies, which is so funny that that's a development of his relationship with Robert Rodriguez through Desperado and all of this 90s, like, schlocky stuff, ends up channeling into a kids star career when Robert Rodriguez pivots in the early 2000s to making kids movies. But it's good that he's still seemingly he kind of has these three subsequent careers that are ongoing. One as the blockbuster guy, one as the kind of the silly kid star, and then this other career as like a real serious dramatic actor, working with Almodovar and popping up in stuff like Baby Girl, which I thought he was great in as the cuck husband, but also like the only kind of actor you can cast opposite Nicole Kidman as her husband, where you're like, oh, she should probably stay with this husband. He's something. Like, it's hard to cast a man opposite Nicole Kidman where you don't want her to cheat on him with Harris Dickinson, I feel like. And I think he's very good in that film, and he actually handles some of the most challenging scenes of that film rely on him, and I think he does a really good job. But like, he gets his first and only Oscar nomination in 2020 for his performance in Pain and Glory, which is his reunion with Almodovar. I think he's great in that. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember at the time being really struck by that performance. It's got the best poster ever, I was telling Shane, which is not coming up right now, but it's Banderas in profile with Almodovar's shadow on the wall behind him, which I love. And it really reflects like, here I've made a film based on myself, and I've cast my favorite leading man as me. And I think he's great in Pain and Glory. I mean, it's building on previous work he did with Almodovar, but I think it's probably the best dramatic work of his career. And it's lovely that he got recognized finally at the Oscars for something where he is the center of attention.
Yeah, and he got paid by Hollywood for some steamboat captain roles in the years since. Yeah,
exactly. The other thing I love him in is Philadelphia, where I think he's fantastic, and he's the like incredibly gentle presence that Tom Hanks has when he's kind of dealing with his illness versus the very like snappy, aggressive thing with Denzel at work. And I think he's like an underrated part of that film and is great. And we covered that movie on the podcast. We talked about him in that. But his category at the Oscars in 2020 is fascinating. He obviously loses to Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, which is kind of just you read out all these names and you're like, fuck that. Also nominated, one of last week's episode's stars, Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes. Now, a correction on last week's episode where I specifically said that Anthony Hopkins was nominated in lead and Jonathan Pryce was nominated in supporting. I got it the wrong way around. I think we had an entire conversation about how Jonathan Pryce was the real lead of that movie. Well, that the Oscars agreed. There's no issue there.
Our process was correct, but our facts were wrong. Our analysis was right.
And then the two other nominees in that category are Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Adam Driver in Marriage Story. And then, of course, our kind of sixth place, you would imagine, is Sandler in Uncut Gems. So you're dealing with a really strong year there where Joaquin Phoenix obviously is like, I think we all probably agree, a very silly win. But I wouldn't have given it to Banderas personally. Would have given it to Adam Driver. I'm a huge Marriage Story head. Even if Adam Sandler was nominated, I probably would have given it to Adam Driver. Who would your pick be there, Alistair?
I think it's depending on the day of the week. It would either be Banderas or Driver. But I think that if Sandler was nominated, I probably would give it to Sandler, if only to just stop the ongoing conversation whenever he has a dramatic role about, oh, he's such an underrated dramatic actor. No, he isn't at this point. We all know he's a great dramatic actor.
Only by the Academy. Only in that one context. I mean, as much as, I'm the world's biggest Sandler fan.
We did an entire podcast on him.
We did an entire podcast about him. I'm just not as big an Uncut Gems fan as everybody else. I like Marriage Story a lot more than Uncut Gems. And I guess I feel like, I don't know. Adam Sandler this year, supporting actor, Jay Kelly, let's go. There's a chance. But anyway, Banderas, is there anything else in his career worth mentioning? He does a lot of like red boxy action shit. Like he's in Expendables 3 and then proceeds to make like 15 Expendables core movies that he's probably co-starring with Dolph Lundgren or Kellen Lutz or some variation. I would say a type of move that Lucy Liu has seemed to avoid is going into the straight to streaming action canon. Like she's managed to swerve around that.
Which you'd be quite surprised by, considering the fact that here in 2002, she starred in the most straight-to-streaming, action-coded movie of all time. But also, like, directly after this is Kill Bill Volume 1, which is, she's fantastic in, but that's the sort of, like, film bro kind of movie that you could imagine someone in Hollywood seeing and being like, right, she's great in that. action heroine career sorted. Same on Charlie's Angels as well. You know, she's such a pivotal part of that. Those were massive hits. How she's managed to sort of circumnavigate just being sort of pigeonholed in that area is quite impressive.
It is. She's definitely someone that was a household name when I was very young. Not because I'd seen her in anything, but I think just because her name is so distinct and interesting, and her look is so distinct and interesting. Her first movie is Jerry Maguire, where she plays Jerry's former girlfriend. But she's like within 4 years is in major roles in Shanghai Noon and then in the Charlie's Angels movies. Now, we researched for this episode, sat down and watched Charlie's Angels 2 Full Throttle.
Yes.
Directed by Koas's fellow, what's they call when you have a single name? Like Madonna or...
Yeah, like a mononym.
A mononym.
Yeah.
Koas's fellow mononymic director, McG. From the twisted brain of McG. And Charlie's Angels 2, I think we agreed, was one of both the most insanely lecherous and also watchable things we've seen in a very long time. That movie moves at the pace of a fucking TikTok compilation, while also every 2 seconds finding an opportunity to leer at its 3 lead actresses in some horrendous way. Also,
and that's not even the most offensive thing about it.
The most offensive thing about it is Justin Theroux's Irish accent, which is truly needs to be called a matter of national security here. It's really bad. And I hope that he has atoned for that. I mean, he has atoned for it with his leftovers and subsequent work, but you know.
Yeah, it's funny.
Upsetting.
He's simultaneously in one of the greatest TV and films of all time.
Yeah,
and
has
this
committed an offense to our nation. Yeah, and he also does this movie about 6 months after Mulholland. It's like very soon after. But anyway, Charlie's Angels 2 is nuts, folks. You should check it out. Any thoughts on the Charlie's Angels movies?
I have not seen the first one in ages. I've never seen the second one.
The second one's fun.
Yeah, no, my thoughts on Charlie's Angels Full Throttle are, you know, you can tell that it's a big downgrade just culturally because you go from Destiny's Child's Independent Women, part 1, part 2, who knows what that sounds like, but part 1, that is the soundtrack to the first one. It's everywhere. Soundtrack to the second one is a song by Pink called, I believe, Real Good Time.
Pink
does not exist.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Pink's in the movie. Remember when Rita Ora showed up in one of the Fast movies with as the little flag waving person at the start of a race?
Yeah. I don't remember that, but I remember Rita Ora in several of the movies in similar functions. Detective Pikachu, Southpaw, 50 Shades of Grey. She did them all.
None of which directed by her Oscar-winning filmmaker spouse. But Pink has that role in Full Throttle, where she launches a quad bike race?
It's a dirt bike race.
Dirt bike race?
Yes. Which turns into basically a Power Ranger sequence.
Yes. That movie's fun. Matt LeBlanc is in it. It's good fun. And Lucy Liu is contributing a lot to that, along with Diaz and Barrymore. As you said, she's very, very good in Kill Bill Volume 1. And then a couple of trashy action movies like Lucky Number 11, which... we just put on a clip there. What did Morgan Freeman enters a room? Josh Hartnett is standing there, and Morgan Freeman enters a room. And what does he say?
He says, "Are you aware of the shmoo, Mr. Fisher?
Are you aware of the shmoo?" And he proceeds to give him a speech about some creature called the shmoo. Anyway, we're gonna have to watch it to find out more.
Yeah. I think Lucy Liu also appeared. I don't know if it's her doing the voice, but Lucy Liu, the character, appears in Futurama for a while.
Oh, really?
As the ideal early 2000s woman that you would bring back to life in the year 3000. Okay, if you wanted to.
Obviously, there was a fetishization of her going
incredibly
on across culture in the early 2000s. That was probably, if you look into it, based in horrible stereotyping. But she's in the Kung Fu Panda movies as Viper, which is a major contributor to her box office total, which I will reveal is 4.1 billion, which isn't bad. And the only really big blockbuster she's been in since the start of the 2010s is Red 1. Sorry, Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Red 1. And I don't remember what she does in Red 1. I haven't seen Shazam! Fury of the Gods. She's on all the posters for Red 1. She's third billed. She was a kind of central part of the marketing, along with Dwayne and Chris and J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus. And I think that is testament to her lasting power as a name brand. That Warner Brothers and Amazon in 2024 were like, yeah, Lucy Liu is actually going to put butts in seats, despite literally not having been in a major studio film other than Kung Fu Panda for ages.
I think another weird reason that Lucy Liu has sort of like lingered just as a sort of a name in the pop culture sphere, despite, you know, not being in hit movies.
Yeah.
I know that in the 2010s she did spend like several years as Watson.
So
on
Shane
Elementary.
doesn't know about this. I was keeping this from him. Are you aware that she was Watson on a CBS procedural Sherlock Holmes show where Sherlock Holmes was played by Sick Boy from Trainspotting for 6 or 7 seasons?
How would I know that?
And it began directly in the wake of the success of BBC Sherlock, and it was a hit.
Interesting. So what? It was just like 6 20-episode seasons?
Yeah, 6 22-episode seasons, I'd say. And it was probably the only time in the history of the Sherlock Holmes IP that the actor playing Watson has been billed first, because Lucy Liu was a much bigger deal than Johnny Lee Miller.
Is that the first time Watson has been played by a woman?
I think it's the only time Watson's been played by a woman in any kind of significant way. I think it's cool that Lucy Liu was cast as Watson. It's a pity it was in a show on CBS.
Yeah.
But it's a fun, creative choice. And for her, at that point in her career, like, oh, you could play a famous detective. Sherlock Holmes? No. Female Watson. I don't know. I think that's a fun idea.
I do too.
But I think even though she was, you know, relegated to TV in this show that was like a success initially, but I feel like people just drifted apart from as is the case with any sort of 20-episode network television show. One of the main reasons she's endured as a name is I feel like in the early 2000s, she was name dropped as like a cultural reference in so many songs. Like, just off the top of my head, Hey Ya by Outkast has that to all the Beyoncés and the Lucy Lius. There's definitely like multiple Kanye songs that reference her. Like, there's just in the 2000s, I feel like she is just like a touchstone, like glamorous celebrity that will be referenced as a glamorous celebrity in songs.
It's so interesting. I think it's partially because
it's a good alliterative.
It's because her name rhymes.
Name,
like, her name is great. Like, as a person with the name Lucien, Lucy Liu is like in the fucking range of nicknames that I'm going to be called throughout my life.
It's kind of nursery rhymey where you can throw it into a lot of songs.
It is a great name, and it is her real name. She's apparently in one episode. She's in the episode of Girls where Shoshana goes to Japan as a detective. I don't remember that. You haven't gotten to it yet.
No,
I don't remember that. That's a good episode.
Is she? Do you think she's a candidate to like pop up on like the next season of The White Lotus kind of thing?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that either Antonio Banderas or her could pop up in an ensemble TV show. Like, he's obviously a bigger deal still in the sense that he got an Oscar nomination in the last 5 or 6 years. But I feel like either of these people could seriously benefit from like a HBO gig or like a good streaming show. Her maybe more so.
I feel like Lucy Liu is sort of getting back onto that level. Because I mean, her indie cred's back up because she's just been in Presence, the Steven Soderbergh film, where she's not really given much to do, but she's like the name that I assume that got, whatever limited financing it needed on. And that got like enough attention that I feel like we are in a place curious as to she'll be in again and whether it'll still be in this sort of like indie sphere with an interesting director like Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah. She's also in the romantic comedy Watching the Detectives with Cillian Murphy, which is a really strange film. It is the most out-of-character thing Cillian Murphy has maybe ever done. He plays a American video store clerk who basically seduces the like sexy lady who comes into his video store, played by Lucy Liu. And Jason Sudeikis plays his best friend, and like Paul Scheer and various other people are in it. Really strange film. I don't really remember what she does in it. It made a healthy $15,000 at the box office in 2007. So,
well, thank you for that Cinematrix answer.
There you go. Yeah, great. Watching the Detectives. Like, it's a good, memorable name.
Like, do you think her career kind of mirrors her Charlie's Angel co-star Cameron Diaz a little bit?
Maybe, but Cameron Diaz's comedy bona fides benefit her hugely.
Okay, yeah.
Again, Shrek is a huge deal because Shrek. Now, Kung Fu Panda is
exactly,
a success,
yeah.
But Shrek is a much bigger deal than Kung Fu Panda. Sure. And like the average child who knows that Jack Black is in Kung Fu Panda probably doesn't know that Lucy Liu or Dustin Hoffman or Bryan Cranston or any of these people are in those movies. Whereas Shrek was always the 4 or 5 main actors were like entirely consumed in the marketing.
No, I'm not sure if other children's movies do this, but I have the Shrek 2 credits seared in my mind. Like I knew
the opening credits.
No, the closing, I'd imagine.
When they're singing at Far Far Away Idol.
Maybe not, but when the names pop up of the voices and they do like a little freeze frame of each of the characters,
okay, yeah.
I'm like, me as a 7-year-old or whatever watching that like.
Yes.
I knew all the actors immediately.
I think what the first Shrek does that's very clever is, and this is a real detour, but the first Shrek puts every actor's name in the opening credits where Smash Mouth is playing in like a different part of Shrek's house. So like Mike Myers is like plunged in gunk in his toilet, and then Cameron Diaz is like smeared in shit on the mirror, and John Lithgow is like, you know, snot on the fucking wall. Like they do a lot of like gross effects with the names. So me as I
don't think it was any other film when I was that age I could name the entire cast of like
a bunch of 5-year-olds running around like John Lithgow, John Cleese. These are my favorite actors, and both totally great guys who do good things with their life.
And kids watching the Kung Fu Panda films today are like, yes, Dustin Hoffman. Yes. They've got all their Hoffman posters on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Master Shifu, who I think dies in the first Kung Fu Panda, and yet he's in all those movies. I don't understand what's going on there. I haven't watched the recent ones. But yeah, that's the Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu crossover of your dreams, folks. Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. Like, I think this movie does not make full use of either of them. We haven't talked about the plot at all. Is there a way to summarize this in 30 or 45 seconds? I don't think there is.
I made a note of the plot because recently there was a tweet that you retweeted that I really enjoyed. It was this book cover where the tagline was just something like, "To save a child, you must kidnap a child." And the plot of this is not too dissimilar to that.
Yes.
We were talking about this.
We were talking about this just before we started recording. You're right, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking through my notes now, and I've really not noted on the plot whatsoever, so much as just sort of like the stylization of it and how it feels like, again, as we discussed, it's very post-Matrix in the fact that they've been like, we're going to copy the slow-mo for the action sequences, but nothing else is, so it just feels empty. One thing we have not mentioned is the fact that this is a record-holding film. This is the worst reviewed film of all time at Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 0% with, I believe, 114 reviews.
Which is the record, most reviews with 0%. That's ridiculous.
It's not deserving of
It's not
that
deserving.
At all.
But, like, we can say, it's not deserving, but then by the way Rotten Tomatoes works, we'd be giving it a negative review ourselves.
By no measure is this anyway.
Like, I can't blame that no, fucking Grace Randolph didn't log on and give it a fresh review. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think it deserves to be considered the worst of anything.
No, I think
it's so like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 rather than a 0 out of 10 for me. I don't know. And that's not because there's anything of merit in it. It's just inoffensively shit in a way where like I'm not seething that I was subjected to it. And maybe
but it's not completely shit from like a craft perspective.
No, it's not completely shit.
The action is directed fine. Like I think there's some good shots in here. I think there's like one bit I liked was there's a cool shot of the Ecks fighting Sever on a rooftop like a few blocks away.
You're right, yeah.
I think there was a cool...
There's a shot of a third person watching Ecks and Sever fist fighting from a distance.
That should have gone on for longer.
Yeah,
but
and you're like,
that
doesn't happen in films very often. So there's interesting lessons that obviously Koas has brought from his background in Thai filmmaking.
Yeah.
And like maybe the Koas director's cut would be at 4 or 5 out of 10.
Yeah, like if this was on the TV and you tuned in for 15 minutes then turned it off, I don't think you'd be thinking, Jesus, that looks like that could have been the worst film of all time. Yeah.
I don't know. Koas has apparently never seen the final cut of this film, which is really sad. Like, I feel really bad for him.
Did he die?
He didn't make it. Sorry, as in he didn't not make it in the world. He's alive. Okay. He did not make the final version of this film. Is not a Koas project.
But I mean,
he's too chaotic.
His life is more culturally enriched than ours for having not seen this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree. It's not the worst film ever, but it is the worst kind of bad movie in the fact that it doesn't have any personality.
Boring,
it is. It feels like it was made by committee in the fact that, they got a focus group together and like, we're going to create these two badass action heroes, like based entirely around like what an audience would want from an action hero. Yeah. And then they went and wrote and directed the movie and didn't test it in front of an audience again. It's something like, I don't know, Borderlands last year or The Electric State recently, which are just these movies devoid of personality.
Shit in the old way where it's completely sincere and it's not wink at camera.
Yeah, it's not wink action. There's no Ryan Reynolds persona.
No.
Which
makes this infinitely more tolerable.
Sure. What bummed me out watching this is that I tried to picture the kind of man who would go see this on his own in 2002 after seeing the trailer and thinking it looked really cool. And it just made me really sad. I was just picturing...
Sorry, but the trailer is quite good.
The trailer is quite good.
Yeah.
But then you have to sit through the film.
Yeah, see, the trailer is built around there's a bomb in the president's
in the brain.
head.
Yeah. the president, the bomb in the president's head line in the trailer makes it
this
look
could be in the president's
exactly.
head.
It makes it seem like there's going to be a president's head in the film. There are no president's heads. No. But I just pictured the saddest type of person with an Odeon Limitless card,
of course,
going to see this on a Tuesday alone. And just the trailers before it are all for really bad 2002 crap that we're not even going to, we don't even remember the names of. And then you have to sit through this, and then you just kind of trudge home sad about, your life after seeing this film. And it just made me really upset. But that's my overactive imagination.
Yeah. But I was promised good versus evil. I was promised friend versus foe.
You were promised truth versus lies. Another issue with this film that we often mention on this podcast when we're talking about a bad movie, there's a real lack of character actors that I recognize in this cast. It needs fucking John Lithgow, or if not someone better. It needs like a guy with a loud voice and a lot of presence. One guy? Villain. No, the only person in this, other than these two leads, that I know the name of is Ray Park, who is the physical performer of Darth Maul, later dubbed by Peter Serafinowicz in The Phantom Menace. There is nobody else in this that I've heard of. I do not know this man, Greg Henry, the villain, who is apparently in. Oh, he's like a James Gunn guy. He plays the grandfather in the Guardians movies. Okay. Sure.
We didn't know that at the time.
He's like one of these like 50s TV guy or 70s TV guys that James Gunn idolizes. This needs like a character actor I recognize rocking up for his 15 minutes. Anything else from your notes you want to say before we move on?
Well, we did. I haven't said my first note that I wrote, which was simply, she Ecks on my Sever till I go ballistic.
Fantastic. That should have been how we started the episode, to be fair. There's so much, like, to be fair now, if this movie had the Ryan Reynolds winky energy, they'd make a lot of good jokes about the names Ecks and Sever.
Sex versus ever.
No Ecks, Sever for you.
No sex forever.
Yeah. This needed like a stupid man to write it.
A little heart and a big Johnson.
A little heart and a big Johnson needed to be the energy of this.
A little Ecks and a big Sever.
Yes, a little Ecks and a big Sever. There was, on the big master list of films we could cover in this podcast, which is about 500 films on it, there is one film with a lower letterbox rating than this. Any guesses?
Oh.
I'm trying to think what would be...
It's from around the same era.
You told me.
Is it like...
I might have told you.
Catwoman, something like that?
No, it's a boy party movie. It's a two leads, early 2000s, famously shit.
You might have given like Sharon Stone dual boy party billing for Catwoman.
It wasn't in the March Madness bracket. No,
a year ago. No, I thought you went like lowest rated, highest rated as the two.
I didn't include this a year ago. No.
Okay.
The answer is Gigli.
Oh, Gigli.
Martin Brest's Gigli. Yeah. Which is worse than Ballistic Ecks versus Sever in my opinion, because like what that movie has that Ballistic Ecks versus Sever doesn't is Justin Bartha playing an intellectually disabled person. Like that might help Ballistic be more interestingly shit, but it's not present.
And also, I believe Gigli is like 45 minutes long.
Yeah,
as well,
it is.
Which
Gigli
does not help.
Gigli qualifies as a short, actually, at the Oscars. This movie cost $70 million and it made $20.2 million. Will I pull up the box office for its opening weekend?
I thought this was just going to stumble into 150 just because it was 2002 or whatever.
No, Shane, no. We'll do the top 5 opening weekend. I'll see if either of you can get this.
Right, I will not.
This is released in September, which I feel like in 2002 is still a real dumping ground. September 20th, 2002. It opens in 4th place. Number 1 is a comedy with an all-black cast that launches a franchise.
Is it a Medea?
No.
It's not a Tyler Perry
It's a brand I'm familiar with. There's been 3 or 4 of these.
You're familiar with?
Yeah, there's definitely 3 or 4 of these. It's not Tyler Perry.
Oh, is it Barbershop?
Correct, Barbershop. Ice Cube, Anthony Anderson, directed by Tim Story, who would go on to do the Fantastic Four movies. Number 2 is a film I've never heard of, so I'm just going to tell you. It's called The Banger Sisters. What the hell is this?
I believe that's a Goldie Hawn vehicle.
Weird. Okay. Goldie Hawn. Susan Sarandon, Goldie Hawn.
That sounds like a bit
next week's episode, guys. The Banger Sisters also stars Academy Award winner Jeffrey Rush. And Trevor Rabin, the composer who was dropped from Ballistic, did the score. Look at that.
And he's opening higher. That's justice.
Insane.
Yeah.
In third place, we have a comedy that at this point had grossed $124 million despite being released by IFC Films. It's one of the biggest independent films of all time.
Oh, it's My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Correct. I have my dad brought me into an internet cafe in 2002 to print off some documents. And there was 3 posters on the wall, and I'll never forget what they were. The Matrix, the movie The Guru with Heather Graham, which is some sort of perverse kind of leery thing that I don't want to know about.
Exists purely because Round Round by the Sugar Babes is the song for that soundtrack. So in the music video they've got clips from The Guru, and that is the only reason that The Guru still exists.
You're a great bastion of facts around the songs and the music videos.
Yes,
we need to do a whole dedicated episode about that at some point. And then the third poster was My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So I'll never forget being in the internet cafe on that day.
I very much thought that was going to be your dad was going in and his documents were poster of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Printing the Big Fat Greek Wedding poster. Fourth place is Ballistic.
Work to do.
Fourth place is Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever. And then we have another one in fifth place that I haven't heard of. I'll give clues. This is a Paramount film. It's opening in fifth place with $6 million. And it stars Chris Marshall and Wes Bentley. And Wes Bentley plays Lieutenant Jack Durrance, also in the cast. Kate Hudson, who's like fourth billed. Jimon Hunsu. What is this? Heath Ledger, Michael Sheen?
I have no idea what this is.
This movie is called The Four Feathers.
The Four Feathers.
What the fuck is this? It's a war movie. Okay, Heath Ledger is the biggest face on the poster. It is like a young British officer in the Middle East or in India type thing. Like a weird colonial thing.
Modern day?
World War I colonial thing.
Oh.
I don't know what this is. This looks insane. All right. And then also in the top 10, you've got Signs, 1 Hour Photo, Stealing Harvard, and Triple X, which Triple X belongs in the Ballistic canon, but is better of movies where everything had to be extreme with 3 X's.
Yeah.
Ballistic, unfortunately, only has 1 X, not 3 X's. Huh?
Are there any computers in Triple X?
I bet there are. I haven't seen it. It's extreme sports.
Oh,
probably not. But Triple X, again, sorry to just stay in the early 2000s music thing, but the only thing that I remember from Triple X is that I've only seen, I only remember the opening scene, which is for some reason Vin Diesel is at a Rammstein concert.
Oh, class.
Nice.
And so the tie-in song for that soundtrack was A Firefly by Rammstein.
Very good. There was a Rammstein concert in Dublin about 2 years ago where the volume was turned up so loud, which I'm sure is regular at Rammstein concerts. It was turned up so loud that there was probably a week of scandal with people complaining on the radio and to the city council about because it was in an outdoor rugby pitch in the leafy suburbs of South Dublin.
Yeah.
And it basically disturbed all of the upper middle class people, and they were very upset and they got mad. And I was
still scandalizing people decades into their career.
That's not my kind of music, but given the Rammstein use on the Lost Highway soundtrack, I will forever be indebted to them for, obviously David Lynch's passion for them is very important to me. Finally, before we go, I've got someone here who has Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever in their top 4 favorite films on Letterboxd. So we're going to play the top 4 game.
I was going to ask, how did you find anybody for this? I thought this wasn't going to be a feature on this episode. Right?
6 people, about half of whom are doing it ironically, half of whom are doing it unironically. This person is somewhere in the middle. So we got 4 films here. Okay. This person's name is Vincent and his username is Tectonic23. His profile picture is really shitty deviant art of Tom Hardy in Fury Road. Really bad.
Of course his name is Vincent.
So we got 4 movies. This is the 4th one. The first movie is from the year 2019. I have seen it. It is directed by a musician who is a director as a side hustle. He's only directed maybe 3 movies. His gigs have probably got noise complaints at some point.
Loud guy.
This movie stars a very famous movie star who now makes a lot of random weird stuff. I've seen it. It's good fun. It's a good, fun, terrible movie.
Okay. Is it like a Fred Durst?
Correct.
Is it a Fred Durst? It's that John Travolta movie where John Travolta's walking around looking disheveled.
Correct.
But I do not know what it's called.
Oh, the Fanatic.
The Fanatic. Well done.
Right, okay.
I watched The Fanatic with my mother at Christmas a couple of years ago, and we had a great time. Yeah. It was good. It was shit in a fun way. Good fun. He's obsessed.
I need to see that out.
He's obsessed with some movie star, and he ties him to a chair and tortures him, and is like, "I only wanted an autograph." It's good fun. Second, we have a 2018 movie, also famously shit. This features an original song by the greatest artist of our age, Pitbull.
Oh, is it Aquaman?
No.
Oh, damn.
Same year though. You're close.
Yeah, he had another soundtrack song.
He had another song this year. Yeah. Now, if I can get you the name of the song, maybe that'll be a slight clue.
Does this one also sample Africa by Toto? Or
no, I don't think so.
Is that just for
Sorry, Pitbull actually did multiple songs for the soundtrack. One of them is called
animated.
What? This is not animated. No. One of them is called Amore, and one of them is called So Sorry. Amore will give you a kind of a clue.
Amore, so it's like a romantic kind of.
No.
Okay.
There's an Italian.
Oh, Italian. Okay. Like the Green Book. He did the Green Book sound.
Oh, I wish. This is a period piece. It's a serious movie. The poster is black and white, very serious photo of its lead actor.
I think I might have got a glimpse out of this out of the corner of my eye, and I think I know what it is.
Okay. The marketing for this film famously included the line "Critics put out the hit."
Yeah, I know what this is.
Gotti.
Also starring John Travolta. And then
it's a good sign for Gotti that even in my most peripheral vision, I could identify the poster.
It's a great poster. It's actually a really striking poster. Yeah. It's kind of similar to the poster for Sidney Lumet's Power. I like it. And it also, I love the Critics put out the hit. But
that is the best tagline of the past 10
fantastic.
years, I want to say.
It's great. And then our third favorite film of Vincent is an indisputable classic, one of the greatest American films of all time. One of our great living filmmakers, one of his masterpieces.
I can't tell how serious you're being.
No, I'm being completely serious.
Okay.
It's inconsistent
now I have
with the other choices.
It's inconsistent. So it's a living American filmmaker.
One of the great living American filmmakers at his
So it's like a
peak.
Scorsese?
It's a Scorsese, yeah.
Like Goodfellas?
No, a bit earlier.
Taxi Driver.
Taxi Driver. Now, is there anything we can discern about Vincent's psychology, his state, his well-being, my concern for his well-being?
Yeah, it's all sickos.
It's all sicko stuff.
Taxi Driver, Gotti,
Critics put out the hit.
The Fanatic.
Yeah, Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever.
He's obsessed with assassinating someone, I think.
Sure, he is. But I'm not going to give Ballistic the credit of calling it a sicko classic.
It's not.
It's a movie for dullards.
Like if John Travolta was in it, it'd be a sicko.
Far more sicko is the fact that this man has given Thunderbolts 4.5 stars and a heart. That's sicko behavior. Quick thoughts on Thunderbolts, Alistair?
People love those bolts, but I'm kind of with you guys on your episode the other week. It's very middling, and that mental health subplot, I'm surprised that people are finding it as deep. And I mean, I'm happy that people have media that speaks to them and feels like they can help them express, but it is so shallow and doesn't have anything to say about it.
Look, in a world where Adolescence is the biggest hit of the year, I guess you kind of have to see the success of Thunderbolts coming.
I think people who only watch Marvel movies have not seen any depiction of mental illness in film ever because they only watch Marvel movies. So
Joker, maybe.
To them, it's that famous, apart from Joker, it's that famous thing of, if you've only swam in a pool, of course the sea seems deep. That's what Thunderbolts seems to be. It's unfortunate that those people don't watch real movies, I guess, but hopefully they'll explore the filmography of Florence Pugh. I don't know,
Yeah, I hope that they can see some real movies about mental health, such as The Fanatic.
Exactly.
That will really speak to them.
It's probably more tasteful than parts of Thunderbolts, to be honest.
Taxi Driver.
What we could get secret Ethan Hunt mental health talking to his mate stuff in The Final Reckoning.
But that would rule.
It would rule. Him and Luther having a heart-to-heart about depression and anxiety would be incredibly powerful. Like, Ving Rhames opening up like that would actually change my life.
Yeah.
And also, consider if it would be a conversation from Ethan Hunt, the god upon this earth, as this franchise positions in him, then it has more weight.
Exactly.
But I'm hopefully seeing that next week.
Yeah, we're seeing it. We're seeing it a week from Sunday, so we're very excited.
Yeah.
All right, that's our Ballistic Ecks versus Sever episode, folks. Thank you so much for joining us, Alistair. I think next time we have you on, we'll do something good. And
yes, I imagine this will be in if not your least listened to episode, in the top 3. This is up there with The Journey.
It won't be. If you weren't on it, it wouldn't be. But sorry, we should say our least listened to episode is not The Journey. Our least listened to episode is Suicide Squad.
I thought it was Carnage.
It is now Suicide Squad.
Really?
And I had a a conversation the other night. I'll mention off mic afterwards with someone involved in the production of The Journey that was very interesting. Anyway, folks will have to talk to me in person to hear that one.
Yeah.
We'll have you on again soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online and your film criticism, which is very excellent?
Thank you. For my sins, I am still on Twitter at Yes It's Alistair. You can find me on Instagram for the same. I'm trying to post there more. I'm also on Blue Sky under the same name. I probably won't be posting there. And then Letterboxd, Alistair Ryder, and you can find my film writing on the Film Stage, Awards Watch, Vague Visages, places like that, and in my day job at Zavvi, where I interview the great and good of film and then slate their work behind their back.
Is actually the ideal dual persona to have as junket, smiley face, and very honest critic behind the scenes. That's the real Ecks versus Sever is within. Thank you all for listening, folks. Get home safe and be kind to the Severs and X's in your life. Bye-bye.